start early and go early. Typical 50 heavy to the whole tomorrow. Just the Shastra, while establishing the eternal presence of self, and also while unfolding its connection with the next body, next world, its continuity, it uses, while communicating it, its existence does not depend upon examples, but communicating its presence. If you have to teach the truth to somebody, then you have to take the help of the examples. But the existence of the self does not depend upon your examples. There is nothing. The existence of the self, the existence of the truth does not depend upon the empirical examples. Atma being Satyam and Jagat being Mithya does not depend upon the example of the clay and pots, etc., gold and ornaments, etc. But if you have to convey it to somebody, if you have to do Upadesha, if you have to teach it to somebody, then you take the help of the examples. These examples are called lingas. Lingas means empirical examples. These empirical examples Shruti gives to convey the eternity of the self, to convey even the continuity of the self from body to body, from loka to loka. The Shruti takes the help of the empirical examples, and these examples are called in Sanskrit lingas. Lingyate anena iti lingam. That which something that helps you, that conveys, that facilitates communication. Linga. Like Shiva Linga. That particular round stone is called Shiva Linga because it is something that communicates, conveys the nature of Shiva as unlimited. Round means in a circle. It is unlimited. The Shiva Linga. The Shiva Linga. One is a pratika, the other is a linga. Hope I am able to convey this today. A pratika is like Indian flag has 3 colors. When it comes to the green color, it is both pratika and linga. Meaning we conclude that the green stands for prosperity. And prosperity in Indian context is abundance of crops. And crop is green, and this flag color is also green. So there is affinity between that green color and the crop. Where there is affinity, it conveys, that is linga. Linga means an affinity. But when you say the kashayam is sacrifice, etc., that is only pratika. Pratika means what? Just we accept that it stands for it. But in my Bhagavan Vishnu, this is a pratika. Murti. We conclude this means this means this. Symbolism, we invent symbolism. We conclude this means this means this means this. That is what we call pratika. But once we say lingam, it's a form of literature. Lingam means there is an affinity, like Shiva Linga. That is, the linga is a round. A roundness is something that conveys the wholeness, the whole, the complete. Therefore, that Shiva Lingam, it is not a lingam because the shape of that stone and the nature of the truth have affinity. Similarly, the relation between the clay and that relation, and the relation between Brahman and the universe have a infinite. The relation between Brahman and the universe and the relation between gold and ornaments, water and waves, clay and pots, etc. as affinity. And then if you give that for this, that becomes drishtantam. This becomes darshtantikam. Otherwise called, every drishtantam is also called a lingam. Did you follow that? Every drishtantam is called lingam. And without affinity, you can't give example. Drishtanta nahi de sakta. So when Vedanta, even though the truth does not exist, does not depend upon the drishtantas, but to convey it, you have to take the help of the drishtantas. Therefore, when it gives the empirical examples, these Mimamsakas and the Vainashikas, both of them conclude that when you are giving empirical examples, that means you are only making inference. That means the truth. It is not something that is conveyed only through Shabda, because even Vedanta is using Drishtantas. But Vedanta is not using Drishtantas to infer its existence. Vedanta is using the Drishtantas to convey what it sees. Vedanta sees the truth and it is trying to convey it. Conveying Drishtantas. Drishtantas used for conveying are different from Drishtantas used for inferring the existence. There is a big difference. Hope you have followed this. If you have followed this, you have done a lot good to yourself in life. Vedanta uses examples not for inferring the existence of truth. It uses the examples to convey, teach the truth that is very obvious. Because it is giving the examples, the empirical examples, therefore it thinks that it is only inferring the existence. Vinashikastu ahamiti pratyaye jayamanepi dehantar vyatiriktasya नास्तित्वमेव प्रतिजानते तस्मात् therefore pratyaksha vishaya vailakshanyat. Therefore the truth being totally unlike the nature of the objects which are perceived, pratyaksha vishaya vailakshanyat, pratyakshat na atma astitva siddhi. Through pratyaksha you can never establish the presence of the truth. You can never know through perception that there is something called eternal, nor can you come to know that there is no something called non-eternal. It is not there. Neither the presence of the eternal nor the absence of the eternal. Swamiji, the sense organs can be used to perceive the absence of the eternal. Sense organs are not used to perceive the absence of the eternal. They are meant to perceive the presence of the non-eternal, not the absence of the eternal. Eyes can't objectify. Why? Because senses are meant to see only the presence of the objects and the absence of the objects. Anupalabdhi. Anupalabdhi pertains only to the objects. I can use the eyes and find out whether there is a form or not. I can use the ears and find out whether there is sound or not. I can use the senses and find out whether there is an object or not. But I can't use the senses to find out whether there is. If the eternal were an object of the senses, my goodness, the sense organs would have overridden it, would have taken the eternal for a ride. Bhagavan को परेशान कर देते, भगवान को इतनी परेशान करते इस दुनिया वाले, if it were an object. In fact, the very security of the truth lies in the fact that it is not a sense object. The very security of the truth lies in the fact that it's not a sense object. It's not an object of like and dislike, memory, etc. Thus, tasmat pratyaksha vishaya vailakshanyat pratyakshat na atma astitva siddhi. I'm trying to explain the Bhashyam as much as I can. Not establish the astitvam of atma through pratyaksha. In which case, yeah, you can get the insight. Therefore, all the schools which follow only pratyaksha and anumana to establish everything, to do khandanam as well as mandanam, they use only pratyaksha and anumana to do both khandanam and mandanam of everything, to prove and disprove. For proving something and for disproving something, they use only the senses and the anumana, pratyaksha and anumana. Then atma being not an object of pratyaksha and anumana. Therefore, the various schools who follow only pratyaksha and anumana can never come to know whether truth is or is not. They can never know. Why? Because senses can never tell me whether there is eternal. There Brahmana. Bhagavan hai ya nahi. Jagat karan hai ki nahi. Therefore, this is over. Tatha anumanadabhi. Just as the presence of the self or the continuity of the self from body to body or the eternity of the self or its unlimitedness, its identity as conveyed by the Karma Kanda or its identity as conveyed by Vedanta is something that can never be known through pratyaksha and anumana. Even the identity of the jiva as something that continues from body to body as conveyed by Karma Kanda is also not known to man. And only thinks I am only associated with this body. When this body goes, I am gone. And therefore, the presence of the self as other than Deha Vyatiriktatva, that the subject is other than the body, Dehantar Sambandha, and that this subject, this Atma, has connection, has continuity from body to body. These things can never be known through pratyaksha. Having said that, now it says it cannot be known even through anumana. You can't andaz nahi laga sakte. Uha poha nahi kar sakte. ऐसा होना चाहिए. This is not andaz. This is shopkeepers. Calculating like this. I sell that, we get this money. All called open air calculations. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता. Are doing like this. You can't really make any calculation. You can't imagine that your presence, that the subject is other than the body and it has continuity from body to body and it has eternity. And there is, it's not surprising at all when I am in the dream, I have no clue about the waking I had. In the waking it is alright, we can say I had the dream alright. But inside the dream, you have no clue that you had a waking. In fact, you came to Ramanapur and fell asleep. And then you are into dread. I am talking about dream and you are actually dramatizing. Actually, you are having a dream. You are one step ahead of this one. I am only talking about the dream. And then in that there is no clue to the fact that you came to Ramana Kendra to hear about the dream. And then you were. In the same manner, say within the same light, you just change the state. You have no clue about the previous state. When you change light, can there be a clue about the previous light? You change the state, there is no clue to the previous state. When you change light, definitely there can't be any clue. So it is all understandable. And what therefore, you can't figure out through anumana. Like in the dream, inside the dream, when there is not even memory of the waking, that you were awake is not something that you can see through the dream eyes. Is not something that you can infer through dream mind. Yes. You can't see. Anumana that. Now here, Shrutya, by the Shruti, Atma Astitve, by the Shruti only talks about the existence of the truth, the self. Atma Astitve, Lingasya Darshitatvat. It is the Shruti that shows the various empirical examples to convey, but not to infer, but to convey the obvious existence of the self. Whereas here the Purvapakshi thinks, because the Shruti is using, because the empirical examples are given by the Shruti, Shrutya Atmastitve Lingasya Darshitatvat, Lingasya cha Pratyaksha Vishayatvat. Therefore, and every example given by the Shruti is indeed in the realm of perception. Examples given are in the realm of perception. Therefore, Vishayatvat na iti chet, therefore the Shruti cannot say, Purvapakshi says, because the Shruti is taking the help of the empirical examples to convey the truth, or whatever it is, we conclude that Shruti is using the examples only to infer the presence of the self. And if it is using the empirical examples only to infer the presence of the self, then we have to say that the self is an object of inference, not the pramana vishaya, for which the Siddhanta says, na. In fact, the whole problem is here. Vedanta uses the examples to convey the obvious, whereas the logicians, the various schools, use the empirical examples to infer the existence. Infer, not exactly the Advaita Atma. They infer that it is not, etc., etc. Why? Because you cannot use the empirical examples and infer. Janmantara Sambandhasya Agrahanat. You can in no way infer the self's continuity from body to body. Here is something, somebody were to say, sir, you say that Atma's continuity from body to body can never be inferred. But here, concentrate here. Supposing somebody were to say, Swamiji, by establishing the continuity of the self in all the three states, we can also establish the continuity of from body to body. Wrong, because establish the continuity of the self in all the three states correctly. Establish the presence of the self even in deep sleep state. Deep sleep state is not the negation of experience, but it is experience pertaining to the negation of the thought. If that is understood, then the very ignorance is gone. You are not in the lower. Therefore, avasthatrayas cannot be used for doing anumana of janmantara sambandha. Very important point. And in fact, the very continuity of the self in all the three states is not pratyaksha vishayam. Continuity of the self in all the three states, continuity of one's existence in all the three states is not pratyaksha vishayam, is not an object of perception. Because in deep sleep state there are no senses, nor is it a matter of inference. Understanding the continuity of the self in all the three states really liberates the person. That's a different matter. That's the topic of Vedanta. The topic of Vedanta cannot be used as an anumana, as a linga for inferring the continuity. Eternity can't be used as a linga for inferring continuity. I mean, it's a funny, big joke. Anyway, here Bhagavan says, Na Janmantara Sambandhasya Agrahanati is a very important thing. You can never see or infer the continuity of the self from the body to body. But one thing, sir, even to accept what Karmakanda says, that Atma has continuity from body to body, in order to see how true it is, if a person has some information about the avasthas, it helps. Why? If a person can transcend the mind and again assume the mind, then definitely a person can transcend the mind in deep sleep, in death, and assume. He may not know the entire truth, but thoda sa logic, a little bit of logic. That is why even Karmakanda, you become a scholar of Karmakanda with a little bit of Vedanta. What about? You don't require so much of Vedanta to feel convinced of law of karma and etc. etc. For moksha you require the full Vedanta. Therefore, sir, Janmantara Sambandha, even though the Vedanta uses the empirical examples to convey the obvious nature of the self, yet just because it gives the empirical examples, don't imagine that we are using empirical examples to infer the continuity of the self from body to body. Why? Because that continuity can never be inferred. Sambandha ka grahan nahi. Also, it is given, very important thing I would like to note here, Vritti it comes. And that thoughts are used by some of the schools, thoughts are used as a linga, as a proof, clue to the presence of the self. This is not true. Nayayikas say, ichcha, etc. The desires and impulses and thoughts, they are all the qualities of the self. Therefore, the adjectives are the clue to the noun. Able to follow? The tallness of the tree tells it is a tree, the greenness of it tells a tree. Their manner, thoughts are adjectives of the self. How do you know that it is a tree? Because I see its quality, then therefore I infer, I say it is a tree. Otherwise I can never know the tree except through its adjectives. I can never know that it is a tree without seeing its adjectives. And similarly, I can never know the self without its adjectives. And every thought is its adjective. Therefore, what is Atma? Inferable through its adjectives. If one school is there, even very big scholars get shaken. Oh my God! सारी मैंने जो पढ़ाई की इतने सालों से एक ही साल एक ही बार खत्म हो गया. स्वामी जी रोज पाठ पढ़ाते हैं शब्द प्रमाण विषय शब्द प्रमाण. Atma is available only for शब्द प्रमाणम, and here comes a scholar. All my jnanam is gone. So this is a tree. How do I come to know? Looking at the adjective. Similarly, how do I come to know I am there? All the desires, etc. You know, these thoughts are not a clue. Thoughts are a creation, no doubt, but they are not the attributes of the self, because the attributes of the self, adjectives can never disappear keeping the noun there. Adjectives are always there with the noun. The noun can never transcend the adjective. A tree can never transcend its height, its tallness. A tree can never transcend its color. A tree can never transcend its touch and taste and smell. Because when the tree transcends all its qualities, then there is no tree. Whereas we transcend all the thoughts and still be. And therefore, The one who can transcend all the thoughts and still be is not qualified by. Therefore, how can a non-objective, that which is not an objective of the self, how can you use it as a clue to the self? How can you use it as a lingam? Lingam means, a clue for inference. How can you use it? तो नहीं होता. See, scholarship क्या करती है? One scholarship conveys the truth. One scholarship pushes you to the truth. Another kind of scholarship pulls you back. Yes. And scholarship means, my God, words can help you. Words can also finish you off. The person is shaken. Yeah, it is so true. Without the adjectives of the tree, I can never know the tree. Similarly, without my adjectives, I can never feel myself. क्या हो गया? मैंने छांदोग्य पूरा किया, तैत्तिरीय पूरा किया, ब्रह्मसूत्र भी पूरा किया, अब तो बृहदारण्यक भी शुरू हो गया. I am totally shaken to the roots. Swamiji, do you have some time? I have got some time. Hey Ramachandra, you should all be so enlightened to be dismissive of all this. Because what can transcend a thought doesn't have the thought as its objective. It is a creation in it, not its objective. Even creation cannot be the lingam for the source. Because there is vailakshanyam. Curd is the lakshanam for the qualities of the curd can give you a clue to infer of which milk it is made. Why? Because the curd inherits the qualities of its material, milk. This is what is called inherence. All the effects inherit the qualities of the cause through change. But creation doesn't inherit qualities of Brahman. Totally different. Then how do you infer? You can't look at the universe and say there is a source. Therefore, the more you see how the truth is not an object of perception and prayer, the more you will understand the greatness of Shabda. You wonder how in God's creation, it's a wonder that really this Shabda Pramanam, this Vedic tradition is there in this, at this point of creation. I don't want to say it is in India. It is in creation. It is inside creation. We call India, that's a different matter. It is. There may be Shastram again in other lokas, in other planets, we don't know where there are people to understand. It may become manifest. They are also in different languages. It is universal. You can't be fanatical about it. Like just as I have Pratyaksha, supposing there are other living beings, they also will have Pratyaksha. You can't really say, you can't monopolize, can't have a monopoly on the eyes. Even the Ullu have better real eyes. We can't see in the dark, they see the dark. Thus don't say Shastram is indeed, India is great because we have Shastram. Say Shastram is not in India. Shastram is in creation. I mean, that's how. Otherwise I feel very uncomfortable. I feel very, very uncomfortable with any fanatical thought. Fanatical thought. Not India, it's in God's creation. Where are the individuals? In God's creation. Where is Shastra? In God's creation. It's available. Where is the Sampradaya? In God's creation. It can be there as well. Okay. Thus, neither the thoughts are a clue to the truth, nor the universe is a clue to the source. Because the universe is not an attribute of, nor the thoughts are an attribute of the subject. Therefore, if they are not the attributes, then how do you infer? That is why in Brahma Sutra, Bhashyakara says, Kimidam Brahmana Sambandham Kim Anyena Kenachitva Sambandham Iti Nirnetum Ashakyam, he says. Whether this universe is connected to Brahman Or is it connected to something else nobody can know through perception and influence? Therefore, my dear sir, the empirical examples that Vedanta gives to convey the truth, don't interpret them as something that is being used for inferring. Vedanta with great like a mother, in order to come down, in order to talk to a layman in the language of a layman, in order to talk to the jiva in the language of the jiva only has the information about the empirical things. And he uses, the Shastra uses the same familiar examples only to convey what is obvious. Convey what is obvious, not inferring what is unobvious. We infer what is unobvious, but we don't infer what is obvious. We only convey. Therefore, don't unnecessarily make it an issue. This point is over. Agamena tu, Agam se Atma astitve avagate. You know, Agama. Agama is a word, means it includes the entire Vedanta, the entire Sampradaya. Agama means Sampradaya. Come down, coming down. That which has been coming down is the connotation of the word Agama. That which has been coming down is the connotation of the word Agama. This Agama, Agamena tu Atma astitve avagate. When the presence of the self, Atma astitve avagate, when the astitvam of Atma is understood, avagate means when understood, when the astitvam of Atma is understood through Agama Sampradaya, through Agama. Veda pradarshita laukika linga viseshaischa. And Veda also gives certain empirical examples. Veda pradarshita laukika linga viseshaischa. Tad anusarinaha. And when Veda gives these laukika examples, seeing them, that Anusarinaha means, those who follow Anumana. Tadanusarinaha, please understand. Linga Anusarinaha. Anumana Anusarinaha. Those who generally think in terms of inferences. Tadanusarinaha. Who are they? Mimamsakaha. These Mimamsakas, some of the karma mimamsakas are different from the followers of karma kanda. The followers of karma kanda who have shraddha in the shabda pramana are different from karma mimamsaka, those who bring in the tarka and try to make a mess of it. And mimamsaka, tarka, that is karma mimamsa as done by Jaimini is immaculate. Karma mimamsa as done by Jaimini does not question the shabda being the sole pramanam for these things. But those who came later than Jaimini, those who came in between, they became some of the logicians, they, Prabhakara, etc., they created a problem using, trying to overrule the Shabda as the ultimate Pramana. Or at least they mix it, try to handle with it through the. They are called Mimamsaka. I have explained what is Mimamsaka here. Karma Mimamsakas. Arkikascha, and those who are totally dedicated to Tarka, like Nayayikas, Vaiseshikas, Sankhyas, and even Bauddhas. Bauddhas are different, they are not even Tarkikas. Because you can't talk to them, because there is no Tarka. Yes. They are very, very funny. They will say, what is the use of studying tarka जब कुछ है ही नहीं, पूरा शून्य है, उसमें तर्क की क्या है? भैया, even to know there is कुछ भी नहीं है, you need tarka. How do you know? ना तो हमारा मन कहता है, हमारा दिल कहता है कि कुछ भी नहीं. नहीं, वो दिल, whether it is educated दिल or illiterate दिल, who knows? These are all funny people really. That is why many people these days, you have to be a person independent of the crowds. I am telling you. When you see a lot of people following that thought, they think, no, they must be true. Millions. I say, I was seeing one serial, very interesting. One Mataji says, only 6% of the world population is vegetarian. The rest are all non-vegetarian. But what that Mataji doesn't understand is, even the non-vegetarian thinks that vegetarian is good. Understand? So if there has to be a voting, he will definitely vote for vegetarian. Yes. There may be so many Ramanas, but every Ramana thinks Rama is good. Yes. That is the glory of this dharma. Even adharmi thinks that dharma is good. Therefore, here, these are called, seeing the Veda, giving the empirical examples, Veda pradarshita laukika linga visheshaischa tadanusarinaha mimamsakaha tarkikascha aham pratyaya lingani cha. Very beautiful. Very difficult to explain this. They use aham pratyaya, the I thought, as a linga for Atma. Vedanta is giving the aham pratyaya as a linga, means a clue to inform. They think aham pratyaya is being used. Aham pratyaya is being used by Vedanta as a clue to the existence of Atma. That means Atma is not Shrata Siddham, it is only inferred to be so. It is inferred to be there through the linga called Aham Pratyaya. Therefore, Atma's existence is not a subject matter of Shabda. Atma's existence is something that is available to be inferred, and Vedanta also is doing the same thing, using the Aham Pratyaya to infer. Iti Aham Pratyaya Lingani cha Vaidikanyeva. But then Veda gives the Aham Pratyaya to convey the Swata Siddha Atma, but not to infer. This is the whole problem. It's the divine. Veda gives everything, every example. Veda gives every example to convey the nature of the truth that is obvious. But Veda doesn't use the Aham Pratyaya or any Pratyaya to inform. Whereas these Tarkikas and Mimamsakas think Vaidikanyeva Swamati Prabhavaniti thinks that they are all born of the Vedanti's mind. Swamati Prabhavani. Swamati Prabhavani means what? They are all born of mind. Meaning what? Clue, they are all inferred. They are all matters of inference. Able to follow? You have not been able to find? Page number 32 and somewhere ठीक है अगर जाने से इसलिए इसको कहते हैं अरण्य वैदिकान्येवा स्वामति प्रभवानीति. The teachings of unfoldment are interpreted as thoughts of inference. The teachings of unfoldment are interpreted by the Tarkikas, are interpreted by the Mimamsakas as thoughts of inferences. iti kalpayantaha, they imagine. The Mimamsakas and the Tarkikas imagine that Veda is only inferring the existence of the nature of the self. How do you know that they are inferring? Because Vedanta also gives the empirical examples, and example means linga, and linga means inference. Inference, yes, conclusion. And who is going to point out this difference, that examples can be given to infer, examples also can be given to convey the Sutta Siddha. I will give you an example of inference. There is a pot. Simply inferentially, if there is a pot, there is a maker. So if there is a universe, there must be a maker. Kind of inference. So the source of the universe becomes inferred, even though there are flaws in it. But people indulge in inferences. But actually no inference is valid at all. No inference is valid. Trying my best to convey. Kalpayantaha vadanti, कहते हैं प्रत्यक्षश्च अनुमेयश्च आत्मा इति. These Mimamsakas and the logicians ultimately say that even Veda uses the empirical examples to talk about Atma, which means it is only inferring the existence of Atma. That means what is available for inference is available for both pratyaksha and anumana. Means it is available for pratyaksha and anumana. If it is not available for pratyaksha, koi baat nahi, but it is available for anumana based on pratyaksha. Kafi hai ji. How Veda can be misunderstood. Veda gives these so many examples. Drishthantam, Devacharam Phanam Vikaro Namadeyam Mrittika Ityeva Satyam, etc. How all pots are false, clay alone is the truth. Similarly, the creation is false, the Atma is true, and it is not inferring. It is only using the simile. It is more a simile, not a Drishthantam inference. A simile, parallel analogy, like that. Okay. Sarvathapi, the next sentence. By all means. Sarvathapi, by all means you look at it from any angle. Sarvathapi, asti atma, there is atma. Sarvathapi, there is self. Dehantara karma jnana, dehantara sambandhi. There is a self that has continuity from body to body. Dehantara sambandhi. Ityevam is prakar. Pratipattuhu, the one who sees it. The one who sees clearly that the existence of the self does not come to an end, it has continuity in and through the three states. Similarly, it has continuity in and through countless thoughts. Similarly, it has continuity in and through all the embodiments. In this manner, the one who sees, him alone, he becomes the student of karma kanda, not anybody else. For him, he can only take interest in it. Pratipattuhu dehantara gata, dehantara gata, belonging to the future life. Dehantara gata, ishtanishta prapti parihara upaya vishesharthinaha. Karmakanda is meant for a person who clearly sees the continuity of the self from the body to body plus. Karmakanda is meant for a person who wants to think of the pleasures even in the next life. This well-being. No, it is not unnatural. A man who sees, and nobody knows whether he will be there tomorrow, but he works for the well-being of his whole life. Is it not? Is it unnatural? If a person, he is thinking for years, for 100 years, but is he sure that but he sees will be there, hopes to be there, so he can think of. Don't think a man who thinks of the well-being in the next life is unnatural. Thinking of one's well-being in the other life is unnatural. Whereas thinking of one's well-being in this life till the end of life or next 100 years is natural, is wrong. Both are swabhavika. Why? Because you don't know whether you will be there or not, but you will. But here, this is more natural, but he sees very clearly he will be there. If I can work for my well-being, if I can do drishta karma, if I can do drishta karma for my well-being in this life, in that case I can also work for my well-being in the future life. And a person who wants his well-being in the next coming lives also, he becomes a student of karma. Nobody will take interest in karma. Therefore, the adhikari for karma kanda is the one who perceives one who has total shraddha that the Atma has continuity from body to body, and the one who wants to build his well-being in the next life. Tanishta prapti parihara upaya vishesharthinaha tad vishesha jnapanaya, to teach, to help him gain it. Tad vishesha jnapanaya karma kandam arabdham. Karma kanda has begun. Bhashyakara says karma kanda's position in Veda is this: it is meant to help a person who seriously perceives the continuity of the self in the future life and who wants to have well-being. He performs the rituals even now so that whose results may come to him here and hereafter. Some rituals may bring results here and some may bring hereafter. Yes, for him is the karma. What is our job? Our job is not to follow in karma kanda. Our job is to understand the position of karma kanda. बस स्वामी जी आप कर्म कांड के बारे में इतना क्यों बता रहे हैं? We are not going. You don't have to sit around a ritual and etc. वो तो आपका बस का नहीं है. But आपका बस किसी के बस का नहीं. But as a sannyasi, we are not even qualified for it. Sannyasis are not allowed anywhere near karma kanda. The विषय तो मृत है. Sannyasis are called mrita. Mrita, you understand? Dead. These are all dead souls. Mrita. That is how the karma kanda is. Not qualified for it. But one must know the position of karma kanda. He is a jnani. The one who follows karma kanda is only a karmi. The one who understands the position of karma kanda in the context of the whole Veda, including Vedanta, what is the position of karma kanda? The one who understands is a jnani. A person may be following karma kanda, but he may not be a jnani. He may think that is the topic of the whole Veda. He thinks that is the whole theme of Veda. But the one who understands that karma kanda's position is only this much, not beyond, is a jnani. That's now Bhagavan talks. See? Karma kanda arabdham, you can put a mark. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you. Tomorrow have a nice chutti.